Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of 6 on the GeoCentrist.
I've heard there was a secret chord.
Well, that's enough music, I guess. Trust me, it goes on and on and on. But, yeah, as you saw in the video, taken from a couple of kilometers up, a view from this network channel to 12, no, it was 151 if I recall correctly, and he says in the about, I believe that it's now channel 287. Well, whatever the case may be, it is, as he also has in the about section, a view from EchoStar 11. That's basically the name of the geostationary satellite that he's well, taking a video from. Now I've tried looking for the specific video so I could compare it, but I found many of different dates, and well, I don't have this myself, so I can't go back into time to re-record it. But whatever the case may be, um, EchoStar 11 is specifically between 35,777 kilometers on above the Earth on its perigee, and it has an apogee of 35,796 kilometers. Now, why is this interesting? Not just the latitude of 0 degrees, but why is that interesting? Well, the way to have an orbit is basically being in space with enough velocity to go around the Earth and blah 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 blah. But to have a geosynchronous orbit in which the satellite orbits a body at the same velocity as that the body orbits, or well, rotates. Um, yeah, that's pretty much spot on 35,786 kilometers. Gee, what a bleeping coincidence. Now, before I muck about with a simulation to show a few things, specifically in regards to geostationary satellite, while in one of the future videos I'll compare that a bit more and explain a bit more, but as a primer. Anyway, before I do that, the main thing I want to address in this video is the comments that are left on the video. A big well, not a big comment, but a repeating comment is like, oh, even the clouds aren't moving, or it's fake because the clouds aren't moving. Well, truth be told, if you click back and forth between the video, like this, near the end, it becomes really obvious that the clouds are moving. But what you have to take into account is that, for example, Hurricane Katrina took 6 days to travel from here to here, which is, well, not that long in appearance in the video, but in reality is over 1,300 kilometers. So, yeah, what's being overlooked is because we're having a view from 35,777 kilometers, only the big clouds are visible, and well, they do move, but not as quick as visible on this scale. Well, okay, we're on our way to the elevation of a geostationary orbit around Kerbin. Well, it's a game, so there's a few differences between the actual Earth and the quote-unquote Earth called Kerbin in this game. Of Kerbin shows it has an equatorial radius of 600 kilometers. For Earth, this is 6,371. Equivalent location of a geosynchronous orbit, which is for Earth 35,786, is for Kerbin a mere 2,868 kilometers. So yeah, we're going to 2,886 kilometers, except we've gone straight up. But I did this on purpose because there somehow are a few comments like basically suggesting that it's not affected by the gravity of Earth, which is peculiar at best. So, were it to be the case that if I'm in this position, and I'd be looking down, there's no possible way to be up there for 24 hours to make some time lapse like that, because, well, you'd have plummeted back to Earth in the same time. If it weren't in its own orbit. Now, this is probably the time that I should also explain a bit about orbits sideways at the same time that it's falling downwards, unlike in this example. To give a bit of a better view for that, I need to swap around to a different vehicle. So I did muck up the resolution and it's not quite visible. In the second video that I prepared earlier, which is starting to play in the background and coming into focus, I will be doing an actual gravity turn instead of going straight up for fun. By contrast. And the video that's still playing in the top right corner is time-lapsed and just showing what happens when you go up and then go straight up instead. Even though the scales are obviously different compared to the real Earth, the radius of Kerbin, as said earlier, is about 600 kilometers, and about of Earth is 10 times that, being 6,200 and whatever kilometers. So instead of going up to 32,000 kilometers, we're merely going up to the same elevation as the other craft, which was about 2,200 or 2,600, something odd. By comparison, the International Space Station is up around 400 kilometers, and we'll get back to that perhaps in a different video. And I'm saying perhaps, but that's because I know what may come in approximately video 6, where he spent around 10 minutes going into different subjects. And in this video, I'm still tempted to merely respond to the view from 32,000 kilometers up from Echo Star 11 that mysteriously shows a geostationary satellite being, well, geostationary. At this moment in the playback, we're at 75 kilometers up, and the parabolic arc we're following is heading towards 185 kilometers up, and I'm doing some maneuvering, or laying down a maneuver node, so I can then punch it up to the 2,000 kilometer mark, which is the geostationary orbit distance. The footage in the top right corner is sped up considerably more as the footage we're viewing. The thing in the top right corner is about 3 hours compressed into 10 minutes, and this one is about 50 minutes compressed into 10 minutes. Actually a bit less because I cut out some bits there. But whatever the case may be, we're at the top of the arc and punching it up. So we are heading towards the 2000 mark, which is the geostationary orbit of Kerbin anyway. And then preparing a maneuver to circularize that orbit. What's probably not really clearly visible, but what you could notice in the projection map on the lower left side of the screen is a little blip which will move a bit sideways while it's going up to the point where we start to circularize, but once the circularization is completed and we're in a geostationary orbit, you'll notice that it stops moving altogether because it's in a fixed point above whatever position we put it in. So near Earth, like the International Space Station, an orbit takes about 90 minutes, and of course a geostationary orbit takes 24 hours, so respective to a satellite that's in a geostationary orbit, the rotation of the body it's above is negated. And by now I learned of a modification for this game that allows it to be more actually analogous to Earth with the diameters correct and whatnot, but this is good enough for the message that I want to convey in this video. And with that and some finagling in the background to circularize that orbit, I want to draw your attention back to the video that's still playing in the top right corner, which had a satellite that just went up and then went down because it went literally straight up and then straight down. There was no gravity turn whatsoever. Also, gravity turn is probably a concept that not a lot of people are familiar with, and I absolutely agree that I'm not working at NASA nor being a rocket scientist or expert or anything of that sort, but playing around with this game for quite a while, I pick up some stuff. Of course, I created a craft that was mightily over-engineered, and I did it horribly inefficient and yada yada, but who cares about that? In any case, there was a comment insinuating that gravity played no part outside of Earth for no reason given. Um, and, um, well, despite that there's diminishing returns, so up to a point there's a sphere of influence for somebody. Um, really, anyone can imagine that the moon is in Earth's sphere of influence, and the elevation, so to say, above Earth for the moon is way more than what you need to achieve a geosynchronous orbit. The difference, by the way, between a geosynchronous and a geostationary orbit is easily explained. A geo... I need to say this right. A geosynchronous orbit is a orbit at the certain elevation where the synchronicity occurs. So you'll have an orbit of around 24 hours, which is the same as the rotation of the body. A geostationary orbit is where the latitude is also 0, so it's above the equator. If you would compare the two on the projection map, there is a slight wobble from north to south, which by contrast the other hasn't. It's just dead on the equator. But yeah, the video in the top right corner is about to end because the craft is about to crash. In the main video, I tried to emulate EchoStar 11 a bit with a satellite that has a few cameras slapped upon it. As you can see, we're by now in a geostationary orbit, which is the blue line. There is an inner orbit of a random satellite that's mimicking the International Space Station, so it orbits in about a 90-minute fashion. And you can also see an analog of the moon, which goes around at a much slower pace. And I'm going to quickly replay this part, not sped up in post-processing, even though it was still at warp speed within the game, to exacerbate the effect that from a geostationary orbit, the planet you're above does in fact look geostationary. While I wrap up this video, and I hope to see you either in the next video response to the GeoCentrist or in just any other video that I'm going to make. Thanks for watching. See you next time. And I had to basically disconnect my lower stage, which was intended to... Why am I making all sorts of noises? I shouldn't do that while... Stupid.